Hello, Northlanders. It's Friday, December 16th. This is Dan Williamson with a special afternoon edition of the Duluth News Tribune Minute. Thousands of Northland residents remained without electricity Friday morning in the wake of this week's snowstorm after snow-laden tree limbs fell, snapping power lines across the region. Crews were struggling with unplowed roads and many downed trees, making it difficult even to get to the many downed lines. It was the unusually heavy, wet snow and the high number of trees down that were causing more outages than usual. Utility workers have battled the elements, including those from Minnesota Power. In a press release sent just before 11 a.m., Amy Rutledge, Director of Corporate Communications of Minnesota Power, said their crews continue to work to restore power to customers affected by the winter storm. The morning release also said about 7,400 customers were affected and challenging conditions continue to hinder their efforts. A press conference was held Friday afternoon at Minnesota Power's Line Operations Center in Duluth with Dan Gunderson, Vice President of Transmission and Distribution, and Josh Gudermont, the Director of Grid Operations, providing a status update of the restoration efforts and taking questions from the media. Here is the audio from the press conference, beginning with Dan Gunderson.
I'm the Vice President over our transmission distribution area, responsible for the wires part of our business and storm response of this nature. Obviously, this has been kind of an unprecedented event for us. We reached a peak of nearly 20,000 customers out, with the primary cause being related to snow on trees, vegetation issues on our transmission system. So it's been a very difficult event to respond to, particularly with travel being very difficult with all of our larger vehicles to restore power. We have our outage numbers down under 5,000 at this point, so we're making good progress, but there's still some challenges out there for us. We have initiated our mutual aid network. We have more resources that will be coming, and we have already have resources from that network that have already responded to the storm and are working on it today. And we'll have our Director over our grid operations and our Incident Commander, Josh Gudermont, update on that in just 1 minute. But I do want to just say, from a closing perspective, that this will continue to be a multi-day event. We're going to continue to see challenges related to both travel as well as continued snowfall that are going to impact our system. So I'll have Josh provide a little bit more details on our system and the condition of our system, but appreciate the patience from all of our customers. I myself am on day 2 of a power outage at my house, so it's affecting everybody, including those of us at the power company. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Josh Gudermont.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Dan. So as I was in front of many of you yesterday and explained kind of where we were at, I am happy to say, as Dan noted, we had made progress yesterday, last night, and again into today. Starting out this morning, we were at nearly 11,000 customers out, and we have crept down below that 4,500 number today. One of the challenges that we continue to see is the same as what we saw yesterday. Again, very heavy laden snow on the trees. Access again becoming an issue for us as well. Roads are very tightly constricted, so moving vehicles around, moving equipment around has been extremely challenging. And we are going back and having to redo a lot of the work that we did yesterday. So I would echo Dan and appreciate very much our customers' patience. This is extremely challenging, and a lot of customers have reached out with the concern of blinking lights, powers on, powers off, powers on. We understand that, and we are doing everything we can to prevent that from happening. One of the things that we have really stepped up today, and we're able to find some resources. We put our call out yesterday for additional resources. Today we spent more time onboarding tree crews. We also have brought in additional tree clearing equipment. So we start with transmission line restoration, feeder restorations. Those are the primary backbone to get power into communities and into homes. Those pieces of equipment have been strongly impacted and heavily impacted by falling trees and trees that continue to gather snow and fall into the right-of-way and into the lines, affecting power supply to many of our customers. So what we did today is we found equipment that will be coming in tonight. We will be doing more preemptive tree clearing. We will be driving the right-of-ways along our transmission lines and clearing the trees that have newly leaned into our right-of-way. They may not be touching the line, but we will be going down those right-of-ways with a piece of equipment called a giraffe, which is a very long-armed circular saw, essentially, that will be cutting those trees off along the right-of-way, and we can do that with those lines energized. So we are bringing in experts to do that. We have also worked with local contractors in the area. We have excavators. We have other pieces of heavy equipment that we are bringing out into our right-of-ways, and we are clearing back trees and also pushing trees that are laden heavily with snow back away from the power lines. We will continue to do that work this afternoon, into tomorrow, and likely into the coming days to try to prevent any more outages and things that will take down power. We put out the request yesterday for more help. So as Dan noted, we are part of a mutual assistance network. We put that call out yesterday, and we had some resources that responded and have been working alongside of our crews. Today, we secured another 70 additional support crews, line workers, mechanics, things like that, that will be coming from Kansas City Power and Light, as well as from Wisconsin and contractor partners with us, MJ Electric, MP Systems, and Hooper Construction. We again believe this is going to be a multi-day event. So we are working very diligently and with a lot of urgency, knowing that it is cold outside, knowing that we have more cold weather coming, knowing that this is impacting our customers very directly. We continue to marshal more resources, and we will leave our call open to get more resources into this area. What we are seeing again is wind picking up. So that wind is really impacting these damaged trees that we're seeing and causing a lot of outages for us. Our ETR right now, estimated time for restoration, we will be pushing into Sunday evening, trailing into Monday morning. That is our best estimate at this time. We also put the caveat along with that this is based on the weather forecast that we have right now and the prediction that we can do. We want that to be better and hope that is better, but right now I think that is the best estimate that we can give for estimated time of restoration. With that, so some advice for customers. We know that this is a major inconvenience. We understand, but we want customers to make preparations, whether that is staying with family and friends, finding a place that has power, getting someplace that's warm, safely providing additional heat into your home, using those secondary heat sources, providing for your family at this time. Protect your family. So we are working with emergency management in the counties that are impacted, and I believe the emergency management groups are taking the information that we are sharing with them and planning appropriately. So I think at this time, I'll open it up for questions if we have questions.
You said you activated a mutual assistance or mutual aid network. What does that entail exactly?
So the Mutual Assistance Network is actually a nationwide resource pool that we as an investor-owned utility participate in. So many times when we respond to outages in disaster areas such as hurricanes and things like that, we are part of that group then that we reach out to and say, hey, now we need help. And so it's comprised of utilities across the nation. That's why we are working with Kansas City Power and Light. So we put out information saying we estimate that we need this number of resources, and this is the type of damage that we have. And then utilities will then go in and they'll essentially enter the amount or the amount of available crews that can come out and support us. So that's the tool that we are using along with our local networks as well. So we do reach out to local utility partners, Xcel Energy, for example, Otter Tail Power. Otter Tail Power is actually in our Pine River, Nisswa area, and they are helping us with this storm as well. So we are trying to leverage every available resource that we can to bring in.
Josh, can you share with us again, where are the hardest hit areas where we are focusing resources plus the additional resources that are coming in?
Excellent question. So right now with the additional resources that we are bringing in and have brought in, as you can see on our outage map, and if you look at our outage map on our website, it is really that Cloquet to Hinckley Sandstone area that is still our hardest hit area. So we are concentrating both our internal resources and external resources in that area. And then Nisswa, Pine River, up to that Walker area, Crosby area, we know that those areas are extremely hard hit as well, and we are starting to see an uptick in outages there. So we see kind of this fluctuation where we resolve issues, we get some wind loading. That's what we're seeing out in that western area of our service territory right now, which is slowly increasing some of those outages. We will be splitting our crews between those two areas right now. Our additional resource crews that we are bringing in will be split between those two areas to restore power.
Okay, hello again.
Hello.
Thank you.
When did you guys first ask for help from other agencies or through that network?
So we reached out yesterday morning, Thursday morning. We asked for additional resources. We got some additional resources. It is a voluntary network, so they will basically fill it by best effort. And I think what we saw is a lot of utilities kind of holding, just waiting to see how this storm impacted their own service territories. Today we're seeing this system move out of some of those areas, and that's why we're able to get more resources assigned our way or volunteered our way.
And you threw out a couple numbers earlier. Can you quantify how much outside help you guys are getting?
Right now we have 70 additional line workers. We have many more tree crews than that, and the experts to run the equipment to do the preemptive clearing on our lines. That number is likely to grow even into tomorrow and over the weekend. We have all of our internal resources assigned to it. I would expect that by the end of the day today, and potentially even into tomorrow morning, that we'll have had another 125 resources brought in to supplement our own resources.
Meaning like line workers and stuff?
Line workers, yes.
How does that compare to like your manpower normally? Like, are we talking like double the amount of people you normally have?
Essentially it will double the amount of people that we have.
Maybe this is a dumb one here, but you put out the call for help Thursday, but I mean, it's been snowing since Wednesday, right?
Right.
Like,
so
why wait a day?
Yeah, fair question. So we actually were well restored going into Wednesday evening. So we have all of our systems telling us, where things are at, what's coming in. We can see our trouble orders. We didn't put the call out on Wednesday because frankly we had it. So we had things cleaned up really well. We had some outages that were still hanging out there on Wednesday night, but we anticipated that wave 2 may have an impact, but we didn't believe that the impact would be quite as significant as what we've seen in these two areas, so we waited. Thursday morning we saw that impact hit very hard, 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. time frame, and so right away on Thursday morning we alerted that network that we needed support. I believe Wednesday night we had gone from 17,000 customers out to 500, and so that would have been a very manageable amount for us to clean up on Thursday had we not gotten hit in the wave 2 as hard as we did.
As a result of all this, is there any lessons learned?
Yeah, we are learning lessons right now every day. So we do a very proactive approach to emergency response. We have a very robust emergency response plan. This is the worst winter storm we have ever seen on our system. It is the highest number of orders we have ever seen. The vegetation damage is the worst we have ever seen. So unlike a summer storm where it kind of moves through and we don't have freezing temperatures and things like that after the storm, that's a very different response than a winter storm. I think we are going to be building additional plans into our already robust plan for emergency response on how to handle these types of situations. We see stronger, more intense storms, heavier snow loading, vegetation damage that may have been weakened from summer storms. So we will take that back and certainly build more robust emergency response plans based on what we learned from this event.
This may be kind of an obvious one, but just to make sure I understand. How exactly does heavy snowfall mess up your guys' power lines?
Sure. So heavy snowfall really affects the vegetation that is next to our power lines. Our power lines actually are designed and built for heavy snow and ice loading. Well, the challenge that we are running into, especially with this storm, is the pine trees. So the pine trees loaded up with this very wet, heavy snow. Some parts of our service territory saw 29 inches of snow. That caked very heavily onto those trees, and it's just stressed them to the point that they can't stay upright. And so what we're seeing is the very large branches on the pine trees, think of a white pine or a red pine, they're snapping off and going through our lines. What we're seeing with some pines, that jack pines, black spruce, balsam trees, they're just bending right over into our lines. So these are not trees that are next to our right-of-way. These are trees that are outside of our right-of-way that are coming into our right-of-way. So that's posed a big challenge for us. We have a very robust vegetation management process, and we do a lot of clearing, but we can only clear back so far. And these trees that are really affecting us are outside of the scope of what we would normally clear. So that's why we are doing more preemptive clearing, getting this specialized equipment in here, and we will stay within the bounds of our right-of-way, but anything leaning into that right-of-way we will be topping or we will be taking down.
Is that the cause of most of the outages then, is trees leaning on power lines?
I would say 90% of it is trees leaning to power lines.
And Josh, is it fair to say it's really the type of snow?
It is.
There's many snowstorms that happen in northeastern Minnesota, we all know that. But the snowfall this time and the sheer amount of it and the second wave, right? 1 wave, 2 wave, and now we're seeing snow again, as you all know. Is that
Yes.
kind of the difference here?
That is the by far and away the big difference maker on this one. The wet, heavy snow, I saw on the National Weather Service, they had talked about the snow to water ratio and how that was really weighted towards the water. That heavy, wet snow is really difficult for the vegetation. That is not what we typically see, or if we do get wet, heavy snow, it isn't in the volume and the quantity that we've had in this storm. So 29 inches is a tremendous amount of wet, heavy snow. We routinely will see maybe 8 to 10 inches, and we can handle that pretty well. We'll have outages, but we handle that pretty well. But this quantity is very high. If this would have been dry snow, I don't know that we're talking about vegetation taking trees down or taking lines down.
For customers who are, going on day 2 without power, what's your response if they're saying, hey, I'm not seeing any crews in my street? Mm-hmm. We want people to know that our crews are in fact working. So yes. What is your response to that?
So to the customers that are not seeing crews in your area right now, I will go back to how we're prioritizing restoration. So our priority is to make sure that the transmission system is up and running. If we don't have transmission in that substation backbone, we can't get power to your home. So even if a crew is driving by and it seems like they could just swing in and hook a wire up, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get power. So our crews, in the way that we do restoration, we focus on transmission lines to the substations, to the feeders, to the taps that run through the residential areas directly to the home. So we have to get that bulk power system running and staying online in order to get power to homes. So we are coming. That is one thing I would want to leave people with, is that we do know of those areas, and we are working through the hardest hit areas, again, to restore that transmission, substation, feeder level outages, and then we are working from the highest customer count onward down.
Your families out there too, I'm sure that's part of the
Yeah, some of them are without power.
How do you as an organization keep your morale up, as well as to keep up hope that everything's going to be okay?
Fantastic question. So for those of you on the WebEx, if you didn't hear that, how are our crews holding up? Morale, how are we supporting our crews that likely are without power and things like that as well? Very happy to report that our crews are doing really well. They have been working very long hours, tough conditions, but been doing so very safely, and they have been very effective. Our crews, understand the urgency, and they understand how important this is to our customers, and we have very, very dedicated crews that are out there, and we also have very dedicated partners. That is one thing in the utility industry, electric utility industry, we respond in times of trouble. So our crews are doing really well. Morale is doing well. From a company perspective, we are supporting them and their families. So we have been out taking care of plowing for the spouses that may remain at home or the family that remains at home, addressing needs as employees are seeing needs, providing additional rest time, providing meals, things like that, so that our crews are fresh and ready to hit it. This has been a really long, challenging storm for them, trying to move through the snow and things like that, and very difficult weather. So overall, I think we've seen an excellent response from a safety perspective, and we are getting a lot of work done.
Keep checking duluthnewstribune.com for more updates. Be safe, have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here on Monday.